Hey everyone, this is Pixel here, just with a quick Deadlock video. If you're one of the 37 people that saw my previous Deadlock video, a lot's changed really since Deadlock back then. It's funny to think there's a lot of small intricacies that don't really exist anymore within that version of Deadlock, and I think that that's just kind of what's cool about Valve making a multiplayer game like this. And I guess a bit of a double-edged sword, though, is that we're also kind of experiencing the testing of that pre-production process. Big caveat with Deadlock as of right now, November 24th, 2024, is that it's in early access. So we're playing this game before Valve really wants to seal, put a stamp on it and call it a day. It's also kind of interesting to see what the kind of direction they want the game to go in. We're still so early on in it that it's really hard to know for sure. But this week specifically was very interesting because of a lot of the changes. I'll just kind of go over some changes that happened with the game so far from what we know. The earned drop-off points seem to be an interesting play in terms of what Valve wants to do with and how they want to balance that out further. Before this weekend, the earned drop-off points were kind of either going to the other side of the map to kind of near the enemy's base or in your base, depending on how stacked your souls were. So this weekend specifically, they had to go right to the middle, which honestly I like. I like the CERN drop-off point being in the middle. It makes fighting a lot more condensed. It makes a lot of the running to drop off the urn a lot less of a hassle. I always felt that running to the other side of the map was, especially when there's no action going on, especially when your team's up entirely, was just really slow and laborious. So it being in the middle, honestly, I like it. It makes a much more fast-paced, engaging environment, but also a lot more of a hectic rush to contest that. There's also been some new voice lines and like little changes with the voice lines. The main cores, the Amber whatever hands, they now have some different voice lines. They also have some different call-outs. Previously, they would like say, "Oh, hey, the Walker at Greenwich is down," or blah 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 blah. I think that was really confusing, and Valve kind of took note of that. So now the cores call out things like, "Hey, the green lane's having this going on," or "The Guardian and blue lane went down." There's also some cool voice lines just to kind of flesh out the characters a little bit. Some characters got some different voice lines. We're kind of seeing not just like the actual gameplay mechanics early on, but even how the characters are being fleshed out in front of our eyes is really interesting to see. I like the idea of Valve basically having an early access game like this, especially a MOBA, because those tend to be fairly huge, and I really think that this one has legs to grow past that MOBA audience that League of Legends and Dota and Heroes of the Storm had such a vice grip on. It being third person makes it a lot easier for a casual audience member to watch and view and understand what's going on. But I think the really big change this week was the removal of competitive. They had like a competitive test run going on for a bit, and this weekend specifically they removed it. But it was nice to just get back into the casual sense and kind of go back to these games matter a bit but don't matter to the grand scheme of my score and everything, and that kind of mentality and also that kind of play area for gamers is there's a huge world of difference. you know Obviously, I don't think they've removed competitive from the game entirely. I think it will come back at some point in the near future. But right now, everything is just in a casual mode, in casual game environment, which I'm not opposed to. Honestly, I was kind of in a slump of playing competitive quite frequently, and also just only really playing the few heroes and characters I know, Haze, Shiv, Dynamo. So this week, or when I guess before competitive comes back, I'm going to try to jump back into casual and like learn some other characters who I've honestly not touched at all. Geist, Moan Krill. I would like to maybe pick up Seven a bit just to figure out how to use him a bit better. But I think what is interesting about them removing the competitive scene is that we've now kind of realized there's a new issue afoot when competitive's gone, and that's essentially that now that casual is where everyone's playing. We're stuck with this problem right here, and I'm going to show it now. Boom. Yep. The mentality basically is within a casual game as well. If I'm not winning and me abandoning this game doesn't negatively impact me in any real way, I'm just going to leave, and that basically leads to a huge problem of people abandoning in casual games. And once one person leaves on either your team or the other team, the game's a complete wash now. It's not a true testament of the Deadlock experience. You basically hamstrung the game that you're in, and it feels really gross on either side. It doesn't feel fun when you have a teammate who leaves because they get salty, and it doesn't feel great when an enemy team leaves and gets salty. And we're seeing that a lot, specifically because now that everyone's back, everyone has learned how to play this game a bit more, and everyone is being paired supposedly with some kind of a casual matchmaking rank. It seems that some games are fairly unbalanced than others, and that causes this shift of people who want to abandon a game immediately out of the gate. It seems that a lot of people too that I've spoken to, at least in my games, who are also frustrated with people abandoning games, their mentality seems to be that we have to punish these gamers. These are people who are leaving the team behind and crashing out, and then ultimately ruining the experience for everyone else involved. I do agree to an extent that there should be some form of a punishment if you are abandoning consistently. However, long term though, knowing how that can be a bit of a problem, that does a lot for your audience. Essentially, that really punishing gamers for actions that developers don't want doesn't tend to be a smart move long term wise. There's actually a really interesting gamer TED talk on that. I think the better solution would maybe be to even explore options around filling for people who abandon or leave games early. So, for example, hey, your teammate left, they rage quit. Let's try to put someone else in that spot. New character. We'll give them basically a pre-descripted amount of souls based on an equation that Valve can cook up. So that way they're not starting from 0 in the middle of a game, but they can at least maybe have 70,000 souls or whatever the math breaks down to kind of get them started, or at least put them into the game immediately. Realistically, I don't know if the math would actually break down or any pros or cons to having someone join a game immediately. You can just pause the fight right there and then just have this new person join in, give them 5 seconds during that pause to buy the items they might need with the pre-descripted amount that we discussed, and then just go from there. It's a casual game, so at that point, what would be worse is that no one plays the game at all because one person leaves in a casual environment. I understand when someone leaves in a competitive environment that hey, that's said and done. But in a casual environment, I don't think people would mind as much. That could be one solution to kind of just at least alleviate the pain and frustration for people who are not abandoning the game itself. But I guess for people who are also abandoned, honestly, you could theoretically close them out, or I guess put a ban on them, or a temporary ban. I think another solution would also be, hey, you can't play this character anymore for a pre-descripted amount of time as well because you're leaving too often or whatever. Get good scrub. I don't know. And then lastly, I think a third solution, maybe have some more options for the casual environment. I would love to see if Valve is working on a team deathmatch type for this game, or even other game modes, capture the flag, etc., etc. I just think that Deadlock is too much of a good shooter with its amazing movement, its weapon mechanics, even its combat mechanics. It would be kind of a shame to just only have it in this MOBA environment. Really cool to see some other game type variety and options. And I think that could work in a way where, if you get kills during these other casual game modes or free-for-all, that you can kind of level your character up, or you can maybe select a pre-descriptive amount of items that are maybe only in these casual game modes only. I don't know. But ultimately, we're still in the early stages of this Valve early dev multiplayer test environment with Deadlock. Still in the early stages of Deadlock as well. I'm liking the direction this game's going in so far. And I think time will really tell as to what happens in the near future. My only worry long term for what happens to Deadlock is that we have another TF2 hat situation where all these colorful characters and costumes exist, and it just bogs the game down. I don't want the game to suffer any graphical fidelity issues, or even issues when it comes to actual playing. Which is what happened with TF2 and hats ultimately. But we'll have to see. But ultimately, yeah, that's Deadlock. I might post a few more of these clips just for fun and goofs. In the meantime, the Left 4 Dead 2 video I made did pretty solidly, about 1,000 views, so I was excited to see that. Also, I uploaded a Half-Life 2 video. Please check that out. I think that's a fun one. A little silly, goofy. Me playing with the developers' commentary. I have a good time. But other than that, thanks for sticking around. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Need to heal, and then I'm coming back to that fight.